Kling, Mr. Peter Kling. Welcome to Late Night in the Midlands. Chris Freedom Flowers, welcome to Late Night in the Midlands. And I'm ready to get started when you guys are.
Yeah, I'm ready here. Just so the listeners know, we're going to be having two guests with us as well, Justin Cook and Nelson Legacy. Both very well known when it comes to Project Bluebeam. So they'll be joining us as well. You want me to start?
Absolutely. Let's do this. So tell us about Bluebeam, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, Bluebeam basically is a project that is being pushed by NASA. And it has four different steps in order to implement the New Age religion. Now, we have to keep in mind here, guys, that this is the ultimate plan of the New World Order. It's to implement a one world religion. And a lot of people are pushing this by joining the New Age so-called ideology. All right? So without this, the New World Order won't be able to put their plan into fruition. They won't be able to do it. So that is why Project Bluebeam is so important to them. Okay, but it's been so hidden until Serge Monast, who was a Canadian journalist, brought this into the public eye. And I have to say this before I continue with this, that Serge Monast was actually, he actually died in 1996, I believe it was, of a so-called heart attack. His daughter was also abducted, okay, and it was never returned to him. He also had another guy who was a journalist who helped write the Project Bluebeam article, and this guy who was in Ireland also died of a mysterious heart attack a few weeks after Serge Monast. So this is quite interesting. So back to Project Bluebeam now. In principle, it will make use of the skies as like a giant movie screen. Space-based laser-generating satellites will project simultaneous images all over the globe in every language and dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspects of the New World Order and its deception and seduction on a massive scale. So computers will coordinate the satellites and software that are already in place that will run the Sky Show. They'll have holographic images that are based on nearly identical signals combining to produce an image or hologram with deep perspective, which is equally applicable to acoustic ELF, VLF, and LF waves and optical phenomenon. Specifically, the show will consist of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, and each one will receive a different image according to the specific national region religion. So if you're a Muslim, you'll be getting these images in your own language. Okay, if you are French, for instance, you'll be getting those images and the words in your language. So with computer animation and sounds appearing to emanate from the very depth of space, astonished ardent followers of the various creeds will witness their own returned messiahs in convincing lifelike reality. And we've seen this all over the internet with images of holograms being seen in the sky of Jesus Christ, of the Virgin Mary. And like I said, there are four steps that are involved with Project Bluebeam, and I believe firmly that we are in step 2 right now. So what do you guys think about that so far? Quite interesting.
Well, I'll go first. I'll say I have more of a question here now, and I always just got to throw this question out there. Now, should they do something like this, and obviously it's in their plans, how do we know if it's real or if it's like, say, with UFOs, they make it look like we're being invaded or something? I mean, how will we know for sure that they're using Project Bluebeam or if it's really, UFOs?
Well, the thing is, you really won't, because the technology is so advanced that they can make it look so real. And that's the scariest part of it all, not to be able to tell the difference if that's really what you're seeing is real or if it's fake.
Okay, so let me throw this in there then. So then if they make these things appear, then basically stand there and see if they shoot at you. And if you're not being shot at, then they're probably not real. I don't know.
Well, the thing is that if they have the satellite in space, it's called NROL-32 that they put up a couple of years ago, which has a laser beam that could basically shoot down from the satellite onto Earth and pinpoint specific targets. So they could use that as well as like some type of alien death ray gun, from like a mothership.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think there is any way to tell the difference.
And I think that Well, it's got to be close to them trying to use something like that because they're already making homeless illegal and throwing them in FEMA camps along with everything else. So, um, how far away? I mean, is this supposed to be their last card that they pull, or do you think that this will be a desperation card that they pull?
No, this was supposed to occur around the year 2000, but it was pushed back because a lot of people became aware of Project Bluebeam, and they didn't necessarily have the technology to really pull it off. But to answer your question, yes, this will be the end game.
Okay, Peter, what do you think? Well, he must be muted. Peter? All right. So you've done a lot of research on this, and I'm sure even more than I have. So how are they doing this? Are they using HARP? Is that part of the mechanism used for this?
HARP is part of the mechanism, yes, and they're using holographic images that it was actually created in Japan to do this. And FEMA is involved. Every organization is involved. The CIA, FBI, everything. Every type of government institution is going to be involved in this. The military.
Uh-huh. I see.
Hey,
Yeah.
Michael.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
No, I actually wasn't muted. I'm like, why can't they hear me?
Yeah, I seen
anyway.
you disappear for a second there, and I said, uh-oh. But,
Yeah,
because last night we got knocked off the air for about, I don't know, 30 seconds. I mean, again, it was, and let me tell you guys, that's why I asked for donations. I have a most powerful internet connection to assure that I don't have blog talk radio type problems. And so when it does happen, somebody's doing it. But go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, something that came out, about 2 weeks ago, and it made some minor news, not a whole lot. And that was that the Pope declared all religions in the world true. All roads lead to everlasting salvation now? Is that it?
Well, now, did he say that they were true, or did he just say that they're not wrong? Because, there's a fine line in there.
The way that I read it, he was saying that they were all true. Now, I didn't read the complete article to see exactly what he had to say, but I noticed it. It was one of those things like, what? Okay. And they did. It had a small little bit on the mainstream media news too for about 12 hours, 14 hours, something like that. I think I first picked it up actually on CNN China news, to be honest with you. So that's kind of an interesting move at this time. Now, it's not just this isn't just brand new off the press. This is something that Pope John Paul II has been working on for quite some time. I think it all started out at the Council of Assisi, if I recall correctly. And all the top religious leaders from all different religions around the world all got together for a little powwow. They even, and I use that term seriously because there was actually different American Indian tribes represented here, and they were looking to unite everyone. So this has been going on for about 20 years. And, here we are in this very interesting time, and now you have a Jesuit Pope that comes out and he's endorsing the same thing. So let me get this right. We have a Jesuit Pope, and the Jesuits are in charge of the banking system. They don't seem to like the Federal Reserve debt note that we are under now, and the Vatican is going to collapse it one way or the other. At least that's what the Pope's 41-page treatise on reforming the world financial system was all about. The Vatican's willing to baptize aliens. That's cool. So I guess we can expect something to show up. That they own the biggest infrared satellite on the planet, and they named it Lucifer. So, you look at all these little things. Now we come along with Project Bluebeam. And Bluebeam gained a lot of popularity about 3 or 4 years ago. and then it kind of slid off the map. So, I'm happy to revisit this, but I think Project Bluebeam might just be the tip of what the final card, the final alien card that they're going to wind up playing. And when you look at the advancements in military technology, not just the hardware, but biologically too, and the advancements in genetic engineering in general, we can pretty much figure that they could have a cloned army that looks like aliens waiting to attack the Earth in ships made by the USA.
See, and now people.
Oh, sorry, Michael, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and people who might just be tuning in and never heard this kind of stuff, your mainstream media watchers, they're probably like, oh, these guys are crazy. But, Peter, that's not far from the truth. They very well could. But go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the cloning issue, Peter, because there's a lot of people out there who study in the UFO field that believe that the gray aliens are actually just machines or clones that maybe the reptilians made or another type of higher intelligent beings created.
It is possible. Here's the thing. We don't know the real history. We know the fabricated history. And even at best, with the best research that you can do, I mean, really good research, you're never going to get the whole picture because they call it sacred knowledge for a reason. And so you're never going to get into that unless you join one of these satanic cults situations that's ruling this planet, this system of evil that we're living in. And here again, it's all about total control of planet Earth. And this branches out to so many different rat holes. It's unbelievable. It's like you wish you could be like out on the prairie shooting prairie dogs here or something. There's just so many of them everywhere you look that the government has some other program. Why do you think we have a debt that's well over $17 trillion, and the Pentagon can't account for $8.2 trillion since 1996? And just fortunate enough for the Pentagon that on September 11th, 2001, the terrorist flew a wingless jet right into accounting at the Pentagon, killed everybody there, burned up all the records. Gee, I guess we'll never find out the answers to that one now, will we?
That's right. And we're paying for our own demise because they've been using our money for their black op projects, their underground bases, their secret weapons. And for decades and decades, nobody has stood up. Maybe you might have got one or two people, but they didn't have enough backing them up and asking them to, hey, where's this money going? What are you spending this on? What are you spending that on? We got criminals. And we need, like my guest said last night, I had a sheriff on, Sheriff Mack, and what he's doing is he's getting all these other sheriffs around the country to join in and become constitutional, where they do things right, actually, and not just shoot you because you were speeding. And, I like his idea, and the sheriff is the law of the land. And we need these sheriffs to team up with police departments, to team up with military, and they need to go door to door, and they need to arrest these scumbags who have taken over this country and who have abused us and abused our Constitution and abused God's name on top of that. It's time to go pick these people up.
I would agree, Michael, except for one thing. A lot of this has to come about by the prophecies. And it's by the prophecies that we know where we are in this.
Well, I think we lost Peter.
Yeah, he seems to have dropped.
Yeah, I see him there, but I don't hear him. So, but let me just say, I understand, his whole motion on the prophecy. But for me, I don't know. I've never been one to read directions. I like to just get in and put things together. So I say we don't have time to waste. We need to get these people out of there. And
the time is due. It has to, actually.
Right. But I understand what he's, he's a man of of the prophecies, and he sees it a little different, I guess. But he's having an internet issue. So he'll be back with us, I would assume, shortly. But yeah, I mean, I love this sheriff's idea, and we really need to, because it's not me. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about my kids, and I'm not going to leave them in this type of state. I mean, can you imagine leaving this planet knowing that at some point your kids are going to become slaves, be re-educated, and as long as they are re-educatable, they'll be put back out there to be a slave. But if they're not, and my kids won't be, because I teach them everything I know, we're the ones that are going to be being put in those big plastic boxes.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's a reason why there's 500,000 FEMA coffins sitting in Georgia.
Well, they moved them, So yeah, they moved them because Ventura and Jones pointed them out, but they've been moved since then. But yeah, there's a plan in motion, and people don't want to believe it, and I'm just sick of people who don't even want to listen and don't want to even pay attention to these things. The proof is there. It's time to open your eyes. What can you do? You can tell somebody, and they can tell somebody. I don't know. I've had plenty of people who've come on this show, and after they've been on this show, they got their first chance to get on the air by coming on this show, and they've gone out and they've built websites. They've put together groups, action groups, to do things about this, and that's what we can do. I mean, I could have said 6 years ago, what can I do? I'm just one person. Well, I started a radio show. I built a website. I've devoted full time of my life to this and getting the word out. And yeah, there's still a group out there that thinks Chris, you and I are a bunch of nuts. But those are the people that we'll be trying to rescue later. That's all I can say. But yeah, so Project Bluebeam, again, you've done extensive research on it. Tell me more about it. Now, I've seen pictures, so they'll be able to actually put I guess anything. Do you think that's what that spiral was all about?
Yeah, the Norway spiral?
The Norway spiral, yeah.
Yeah, I firmly, 100%, no doubt believe that was part of Project Bluebeam, that it was a test run to see how people would react to it.
Yeah, I would agree now. At the time.
And it has a lot to do also with the Hadron Collider as well, because there was a lot of connections between the two there. So you put that, you put the Hadron Collider hand in hand with the Norway spiral, and that's just basically a test run to see how people would react if they would go on a more grander scale.
Yeah, didn't they try to blame that on some kind of weather phenomena?
Yeah, they did. And they said that there was also some people actually that said it was a hologram, that it was some type of promotional hologram, which of course was debunked within minutes.
I thought maybe they were opening up a portal of some sort.
Well, that's where the Hadron Collider came in, because when they started messing around with it, that's when the Norway spiral appeared. But that's part of Project Bluebeam as well.
I see. And Peter's trying to get back in, but I don't know what happened. He was here and he just dropped off again, and I'm going to see what he's saying. I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, I don't know. I'll tell you what. Let's take a break here. We do have Chris Freedom Flowers with us. And, who knows? Maybe we are getting targeted. I know last night I was. When it comes to Skype, I can expect Skype problems every now and then if somebody's calling in on Skype. But for me, I don't use Skype to do my end of the broadcast. I just use it to I have an account that I pay for a phone number, and I bring calls in that way. And so when I go down, then it's something besides Skype, which that didn't used to be the case, but that is the case now. LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Become a member. Be informed, and by all means, inform others. And Chris, we're back, and we are taking calls. You know what, folks? The phone number can be located, if you want it, on the homepage of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Up in the right-hand corner, you'll see the call-in number. You'll also see it on the chat and listen page. If you go to the drop-down menu on the right-hand side, you'll see in that lineup there is the chat and listen page. You can go over there, chat with others who are listening to the show. So, and the number's up in the right-hand corner there also. So easy for you if you want to call in. Chris, what would you like to educate us on as far as this topic goes? Where would you like to go with it?
I'd like to go through the steps, the 4 steps, one by one, then we can talk about that. But before I do, I'd just like to let the people know a little bit about Serge Manasse, who was the Canadian journalist that wrote Project Bluebeam and brought it into the public domain. Interesting thing about him is that he actually died of a heart attack. And a couple of weeks later, one of his co-writers also passed away of a heart attack. But yeah, these guys were in pretty good condition. And also with Serge Manasse, just after he brought this to the public eye, his daughter was taken away from him, and he never saw her again. And it was a couple of weeks after that he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. So let's get to the first step of the NASA Project Bluebeam thing here. So it concerns a breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. This is the first step. It deals with the setup with artificially created earthquakes, and we're seeing a lot of this, and have been seeing a lot of this over the past decade, at certain precise locations on the planet of supposedly new discoveries, which will finally explain to all the people the error of all fundamental religious doctrines. And that's their way of putting it, okay, guys? The error of all fundamental religious doctrines. Now, what is important to understand in the first step is that those earthquakes will hit at different parts of the world where scientific and archaeological teaching have indicated that arcane mysteries have been buried. So by those types of earthquakes, it will be possible for scientists to rediscover those arcane mysteries, which will be used to discredit all fundamental religious doctrines. It's basically a war on religion. That's the first step. And also, this is the first preparation for the plan for humanity, because what they want to do is destroy the belief of all Christians, of all Muslims on the planet. And to do that, they need to create some false proof from the far past that will prove to all nations that their religions have all been misinterpreted and misunderstood. So the first step concerns the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup of artificially created earthquakes all over the planet.
I see, but now when you talk about religion, like my opinion on it is that now I think everybody should have the right to practice whatever religion they like. However, for me, I think if they said that religions were kind of falsified through the years, I don't know if I'd argue too much with that.
Well, the plan is not to really slam the religion. It's
Right.
mainly to bring all the religions together as one in a new age ideology.
I see.
And
Okay.
and that's the important thing, because when they do this, you won't be able to practice your belief. If you're a Christian, you won't be Christian anymore, and it will be a crime to practice that. It will be a crime to practice your Islam beliefs.
Uh-huh. And only their religion will survive, of course, which is the one world religion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people refer to it as the New Age religion, but it's actually Old Age. This ideology that you see out there with these people that practice the New Age religion, it can go back tens of thousands of years, this belief.
I see.
So what they're doing is they're just basically rehashing it for our generation.
Okay, yeah, and in some cases it would seem like they're doing a pretty good job of it, because there's still people sleeping at the wheel. But okay, and what else you got?
So the second step, in the Project Bluebeam, it involves, and this is the important one. This is what we've been seeing for the last couple of years. Involves basically a gigantic space show with 3-dimensional optical holograms and sounds. They can also use laser projection of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, and each one will receive a different image according to the regional, national, religious faith. So this, they call it God's voice, and it will be speaking in all languages. So in order to understand that, people need to study various Secret Services research done in the past decade, particularly the past 25 years. The Soviets, they perfected an advanced computer, all right, which can export them. It could also feed them with a minute physio-psychological particulars that are based on their studies of the anatomy and electromechanical composition of the human body, and studies of the electrical, chemical, and biological properties of the human brain. And this is scary stuff. These computers were fed as well with the languages of all human cultures and their meanings. So the dialects of all cultures have been fed into the computers from satellite transmissions, particularly the satellite that they launched into space a couple of years ago, NROL-32. The Soviets, they began to feed the computers with objective programs like the ones of the new Messiah, and this is documented proof. It also seems that the Soviets, the New World Order people, have restored or actually resorted to suicidal methods with the human society by allocating electronic wavelengths for every person, every society and culture to induce suicidal thoughts if the person doesn't comply with the dictates of the New World Order. Again, this can be brought up with NROL-32, the satellite that NASA launched into space a couple of years ago. Then the projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, they'll merge into one after correct explanations of the mysteries and revelations will have been disclosed. This one God will in fact be the Antichrist, according to Serge Manasse, who will explain that the various scriptures have been misunderstood, misinterpreted, and that the religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother, nation against nation. We know that's true, though. You know, religion does do that, but it's not the actual religion. It's the people who are doing this, the evil people, the Luciferians.
That's
so therefore, old religions, according to the New World Order and Project Bluebeam, will be abolished to make way for the New Age world religion.
Okay, and we've got a call, Chris, so I'll hold you right there, and we'll get back to that 910 area code. You are on Late Night in the Midlands. I need your first name and where you're calling from, and welcome aboard.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going? My name's Andrew. I'm calling from Minnesota.
Well, hello, Andrew.
I just, I got this event invite on Facebook, and I heard that, or I saw that it was, you guys were talking about Project Bluebeam, and I just wanted to share an experience that I had one time, which kind of was, of all the things that have ever happened to me in my life, this is the one thing that I would consider a miracle. And there's only three things it could have been. It could have been aliens, it could have been our government, or it could have been some divine spiritual thing. But this happened about 8 years ago. So that would have been about 2005.
Okay.
And I was just riding my bike home, and it was sunset, and I looked into the sky, but the clouds were like something I'd never seen before. And there was an angel and a demon in the clouds, and it wasn't something that you perceived, that I just perceived. It was like, it was like 100% something like out of the Book of Revelations.
So it wasn't like it wasn't like your mind, just put together, tried to put together what it was seeing, but you clearly seen.
Like I was petrified when I saw it. And half of the sky was, it is when, during sunset when the clouds, they look very distinct, and it's when you can see pictures in the clouds the best. Mm-hmm. The sky was really golden. Everything was outlined, but it looked like an angel was holding out its hands, and there was some like orb around the hands. And then the other side of the sky was pitch black, pretty much. There was this floating pitch black demon face. And that's pretty much all I have to say, but it was something, it was like a painting. It was literally something, it was a painting, and it was something that I cannot explain, and was, besides my own existence, was the most miraculous thing that I've ever experienced as a human being. And
well, that's fascinating.
I feel like
it very well might have been them taking some practice shots.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
What do you think, Chris?
Well, I can tell you that what they're doing is they're not going to be doing Project Bluebeam all at once. They're going to experiment a little bit before they reveal it en masse. They're going to play around with people's minds. They're going to show holographic images in certain parts of the world at certain times. So some people in, for instance, like Arkansas will see something. Then a week later, over in Australia, they'll see something else. So I think personally what you've seen, Andrew, was a holographic image that they created in order to test Project Bluebeam.
Right. But what's interesting is during the time that it happened, I guess you could say I was very conflicted spiritually, and I was still considering the possibility that Christianity could be a valid religion. Jesus Christ could have really died for my sins. There could really be a hell. There really could be angels and demons. All those things and all those programmed thought forms were consuming me at the time. But what I saw was real, and it did happen. It happened in Wilmington, North Carolina. And an interesting fact is that, as far as I know, Wilmington, Carolina is has the most UFO sightings of any city in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met people who have affiliations with or connections to Area 51. I've met people who've had all these paranormal UFO experiences there. So, that could tie into it as well, but I just wanted to share my story because it was relevant.
I appreciate that. And it could very well be that, because you were going through this whole crisis on whether, God or in the hell and all this exists, maybe that was your sign too. You never know. I guess you'll know. I mean, it's in your gut. If it was real to you, then it probably was.
I definitely think it was something the government did.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, could I ask you a question, Andrew?
Yeah, anything.
Yeah, prior to your experience, did you have any, were you, for instance, in the military or had any ties to government projects?
Me personally?
Yeah, or anyone that you knew, like in your family?
No.
You think they may have picked up what he was feeling or his senses, and they tried to play it against him?
That's the thing, because there's a technology out there known as voice to skull, and they can put images into your mind, but they can also read your thoughts in a sense. They have this technology, and it's been documented. So I was wondering maybe if
what's that called? Can I write that down? Because also at that time, that's when I started experimenting with psychedelic drugs, and I think that could tie into it because I would notice, I had quote unquote demonic experiences, but anyways, I had experiences where it was like other thoughts were going through my head, but they were like legitimate conversations, and I would write them down and look things up on Google, and I don't know, it was like transmitted information that was being handed to me, but that's just beyond this. But if you could tell me the name of that again so I can write it down.
Yeah, it's voice to skull.
How do you spell that? Voice to call?
Skull.
Skull.
SKULL. Skull.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, so that's interesting, Chris, is, because I was just reading up on this voice to skull technology. And, I read up on this stuff and it's like, holy cow, and I've heard about these things. But then once you read it and you see proof of these technologies, you've got to wonder, do they randomly pick somebody? Hey, let's test this today. And, what's Chris thinking? Oh, he's having thoughts in his head whether God is real or not. So, hey, let's go give him a picture of Jesus in the clouds or something. you know?
Well, that's why I asked him if he was affiliated with the military in any way, because they test this project on soldiers to see how they will react, and also they do it to people who have had family members that are in the military. So I figured maybe, Andrew was maybe could have been a soldier, and so he may have been tested without knowing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. You don't have to be a soldier for them to
Oh,
use stuff like that on you. I mean, just getting out there and being interested in the truth. Now, let's face it, the NSA is tracking everybody for a reason, and it's not because they're afraid more Flintstones are going to enter the country.
and that's another thing too to bring up, Michael, is nanotechnology. I recently had we knew a guy about 4 or 5 years ago who was sent to prison for the stupid picture that he drew about George Bush. It wasn't anything like, like he was calling for the assassination of George W. Bush. It was kind of like a mockery of him being as president. And so he was sent to jail on domestic terrorist charges. And then for some reason he disappeared for a while because he used to call us from prison. And disappeared. Then he came back and he was feeling strange, and he claimed that they had inserted nanotechnology into his brain, microchips as well. So this guy was actually receiving thoughts in his head of, them telling him to do things and say things, and he was able to see things that weren't really there, But these type of things also fit into Project Bluebeam as well, with the voice to skull scenario. And it's just sounded very similar to what Andrew was telling me, some of the things that he'd seen, especially when he alluded to, thoughts being in his mind that didn't seem as if they were his own thoughts, but that they were being transmitted.
Yeah, that could very well be it. I'm still convinced to this day, and, a lot of times I don't talk about this stuff often because then people think that you're just trying to beef up your show or your ratings or something like that. But, I swear there's been a few times where I've been hit with some kind of beam energy because we talked about this last night a little bit, where I'd be one night sitting here doing the show and all of a sudden my eyesight went crooked on me. I mean, just like crisscrossed. I couldn't see, but I still felt fine, but I couldn't see. And it just, I've had this weird energetic feeling going through me. And I mean, I thought I was dying. I literally got out of my chair and went to my knees. And it lasted just for, I don't know, it seemed like forever, but it was only about 20 seconds. Then I got back on the air. I took a break, and then it didn't happen again for a while. But then, it's happened 3 times in all now. And
well, the thing is,
I'm medically sound. So
yeah. Well, the thing is that they know how to play around with our frequencies, and we do reside on a frequency level here on the third dimension, right, Michael? So
yeah,
they know how to target us, if you will, and they could mess around with our frequency so that we are kind of off balance,
Right, and for the job.
This is not a conspiracy theory. Like a lot of people will say, "Oh, you guys are conspiracy theorists," or "This is a theory." No, this is a fact. This can be backed up. If you took all of this evidence, along with like evidence from 9/11, from all these secret projects like MK Ultra, and you took it to court, and you brought these people to court behind them, they would get the death penalty for this.
That's right. That's right. They would. But in these cases, it seems witness testimony means nothing. Now, there was a case of one guy, I had him on this show about a year ago, who actually sued because he was being electronically harassed, and he was able to prove it, and he won his case. So this does go on, and it goes on at a high level. And the jobs that we do, like me, I've got all kinds of stuff around me right now, so I could do this show. And why couldn't they, use it to attack?
Exactly, and they do. And that's why I have to stress to the listeners out there, particularly the ones who, who are going to be calling us theorists, that this is legitimate, documented programs that are being used on people. And under the Freedom of Information Act, a lot of it's been released. So you have proof.
Yeah.
You have evidence.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's evidence. See, now the people who throw stones at us and say that we're conspiracy theorists and we're fearmongers, those are the people who won't take the time to not only look over the documentation, but then to follow it to make sure it's legitimate documentation. Now, that's what I do. And I'll say this too, that like that NASA 2025 or 45 initiative that come out. Now, a lot of that's true. It is. But then you'll get people who will say, well, I got the document, and they'll take credit for it, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's, you know, they take the truth, they put the truth in there, and then they put their own spin on it. And they try to get themselves popular off stuff like that. And then they get followed, and then they start misleading people deeply. And that goes on a lot too. So I understand where people get frustrated because there's so many lies on the internet. But I'm telling you, what we're talking about here tonight is very real. And we did have Peter with us again, and he vanished again. I don't know what's going on, Peter. We'll call that blue orb.
Well, the aliens better decide, are they taking Peter or are they leaving him with us?
Yeah, I know, right? So he was just here, and now he's gone again. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's like the secrets. Well, it's not so secret anymore, but the NROL 32, particularly the whole program, NROL satellite program that NASA backed a few years ago, they came out and they stated, well, it was for communication reasons. You know, well, that was debunked quite quickly because when they put it up, they also brought up other technology that could monitor people from space at a very interesting rate. All right, they can basically, I'll give you an example. If you have Parkinson's disease, they can genetically alter that. They could also pinpoint who has Parkinson's disease and beam that beam down there, which is Tesla's technology, and they can target those people. They can target African Americans, just African Americans with that technology.
Oh yeah, they could target an individual, and you're right, they do have this technology up in space, and you know, and again, it's no lie, but I can see where it would sound kind of crazy, but you know, all you have to do is look at the evidence because it's there. I mean, you know, this is why everything's happening at such a high rate now. It's moving so fast because the government's moving in, and like that clip I played in the beginning, the last step is taking the guns. Once you don't have a gun, it won't only be the homeless they're throwing in these FEMA camps. It'll be the rest of you. And, you know,
yeah.
I say you because I'm not going. It's either I get away or I die trying because I'm not going to. Nobody's caging me. I'll tell you that right now.
No, me neither.
No.
And I guarantee you, if they do try to take me, I'm taking a few of them with me.
Absolutely. That's what I say. You know, it's like you can only run so long, and eventually they're going to find you. So we might as well get it over with. They come to my door, it's on like a pot of neck bones, as they say here in the South. I'll go in a body bag.
Yeah, getting back to Blue Beam, just so people know, if aliens do arrive, expect robots, okay? And when I mean robots, I don't mean actual robots that the aliens created. It's going to be our own technology. And FEMA actually created this very interesting, like, robot. It's called a Big Dog, but it's not spelled D-O-G. It's spelled D-A-W-G. And the patent is owned by FEMA.
Okay, yeah, because I seen that, and I if I remember correctly, it was actually developed by DARPA.
Yeah.
And it was funded by FEMA, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And also in Haiti a couple of years ago, they had these spaceships just before the Haiti earthquake, by the way. No coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Flew over Haiti, and it was as if they were moving very slow, and they were very real. But later people were claiming that when they saw them, there was kind of like a translucent aura about them, more of like a hologram. So I think maybe they were testing this to see how people would react.
Well, you know, something else too, Chris, is that DARPA, and I covered this story, I don't know, weeks ago here on this show, but DARPA has actually developed, I think some college worked with them, some students, engineering students. They've actually developed a real Terminator robot. I mean, it looks like once they put the skin and the clothes on it, I mean, it looks just like you or I, except for, you know, it's RoboCop. And what they're working on now, and what they've been working on, and I'm sure they've already accomplished it, is to be able to download all Chris's thoughts, Chris's way of thinking, everything about it goes through your mind. Download that and then upload it into this Terminator, and then they've got a killer Chris.
And we're seeing a television show on TV called Intelligence, which is actually describing what you were just talking about. So it's predictive programming. They are like letting you know what their plans are.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you look at everything that they've been doing, and it goes right down to now, you look at the plan. I can't get off of this. I don't know why. It pounds my head. But being homeless, now illegal. So what they're doing is putting these homeless people into these FEMA camps. They're not allowed to leave. And, so what happens is, here's the perfect plan. Again, crash the financial system. Guess what? A lot of us become homeless. Oh, don't worry. We're going to take care of you, off to the FEMA camps. And yep. The plan's coming in. And for those of us who resist, that's probably where this blue beam comes in. And, they're going to try to distract us with some UFOs and some robots.
Exactly. Well, this is the third step in the NASA Project Bluebeam, and I want Andrew, if you're listening, to pay very close attention to this, okay? Because this might be the reason why you've seen what you've seen. So it's basically called telepathic electronic two-way communication. Voice of Skull is part of this. So there's a colonel out there by the last name of Alexander, and he wrote an article, and he had a very interesting statement, so I'm going to read it here. If it is possible to feed artificial thought into the multi-genetic field via satellite, the mind control of the entire planet is now possible. So they can do this with HAARP. They can do this with that satellite that I keep mentioning, NROL-32, which they put up into space 2 years ago. They are using it for this very reason, and that's another step that we're currently in with Project Bluebeam. So we're in the second and third step right now. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the third step. So while as of yet this step has not been fully implemented on a mass scale, the fact remains that the technology is available, it is being used on people, it's being tested, and it's been underway for some time. So like I said with Voice of Skull, people need to go out there and research, and I'll give a little bit more of a background information on NROL-32, which was a communication/spy satellite, which is used actually as a medium to be able to beam down frequencies that will allegedly activate nanotechnology that is in your body and control their minds. And this could actually affect Andrew. It could affect a lot of people that are in the military. They also have a Germanic slogan, okay, that we were able to translate through a video game that was developed in North Korea. And a friend of mine, David Black, who's on Facebook and who did a show about this with me, there's a little saying in there, okay, on the video game. And this is what it states. All of your base is subservient to us, or all of your base belongs to us, meaning Earth. And in it, it has kind of like a Project Bluebeam scenario. But that phrase is over and over and over again, and there's a lot of Luciferian type symbolism in it. Also with the third step of Project Bluebeam, the Hadron Collider, which can also have a two-way communication to the past. So when we talked about the Norway Spiral, and we talked about the Hadron Collider, so step 3 is already being implemented because we see every day people talking about how they hear voices in their head. And Big Pharma is a part of this too. Because what happens if you hear voices? You go see a psychiatrist. They put you on a bunch of medications. These medications actually have RFID chips in them that can track you, that can, bring out your thought process. So you look at step 1 that we read, you look at step 2 that we read, and now step 3. All of these 3 steps are being implemented right now as we speak.
That's insane. RFID chips in the medication that they're taking. I mean, that is absolutely. I'm telling you, you want to talk about the Matrix? Holy cow!
Well, and again, this is not a theory. This is a fact.
Oh, I know. I know. Now the medication I haven't heard of, but you know what? Of course they could do that. Why wouldn't they?
For sure.
Yeah. And the same people who let a nuke go off the coast of South Carolina. So, I mean, if they'll do that, they'll do anything. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Michael. There's a reason why they're pushing a lot of patients in hospitals, and trust me, I work in one, okay, where they're pushing a lot of patients to take liquid medication as opposed to tablets. much more easier to digest a chip than it is, you know.
Okay, we got a call.
Caller.
Hold on a second. Caller, turn your radio down or your computer down in the background, and welcome to Late Night in the Midlands. Where are you calling from?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Well, welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Well, you guys are freaking me out because I actually have some involvement in some of this government projects that's going on. For over 25 years, I've had what I call my spaceship memory. Okay? And when you guys are talking about like a spaceship coming out of the sky, I've discussed that with them, with a doctor from the University of Cincinnati, because my father was a student at the University of Cincinnati until I was 6 years old. My parents were both 16 when I was born. My mother was in an experiment where they were looking for psychic women that she participated in, and when I was 3 years old, we went to I think it was the University of Cincinnati, or it could have been the University Hospital. It was me, my parents, 3 other children, and their parents. And the last day there, they gave all the adults something to drink out of a paper cup. We walked outside into the courtyard, and a spaceship landed. And I know I sound crazy.
No, not here, you know.
And for years I thought I was, because back when I started having flashes when I was 7, and I asked my mother about it, and she said I must have been dreaming. And then when I was 25, I was abducted and kidnapped. Okay? And when that happened, I got away. I heard voices telling me how to get away. And guess who shows up? I call the police. They call the FBI because I was taken across the state lines. The NSA. Okay, they show up. Okay? And then right after that, do you know who Milton William Cooper is?
I've heard of him. I'm not sure. What about you, Chris?
Say the name again, please.
Bill Cooper, Milton William Cooper.
Yeah, Bill Cooper. Yeah, we know Bill Cooper.
Okay. Well, I'm
Cooper.
freaked out because I'm kidnapped. I can't get any kind of police report. I'm being followed. They're letting me know that they're protecting me, the FBI and all that. Bill Cooper's document in 1990, when he was complaining about the government, filed that complaint. Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Who was actually killed, by the way, just to let the listeners know.
Yeah, he was. As a matter of fact, I should have known who she was talking about. It didn't ring a bell right away, but I actually play some of his past shows on Sundays here. But go ahead.
Okay, his document was brought to me by someone that we actually really didn't know that rang my doorbell. And I've had a lot of confusion. But a few weeks ago, I had a premonition of what you guys are talking about with like a spaceship coming out of the sky and Christ and it all being universal in every language. So it's really kind of tripping me out. And I feel used. I feel so used. And I'm going, okay, am I working for bad people here? I know that it's like they programmed me. Okay, and I'm going to tell you this, which trips me out too. And this is one of the reasons that I'm calling. About a year ago, when I was doing meditations from somebody off of Facebook that they offered meditations, and I was having really tripped out experiences from it. I will have a window open up in front of my left eye about 12 inches away. I'm fully awake. My family can be there in the room, okay? I can see the room. I'm awake, but I have a window that opens up. And it was 2 men. They looked like twins. And then a third one appeared. And they're dressed exactly alike. And they were telling me, don't do her meditations. Don't do her meditations. Don't trust her. How in the hell are they making that window open up in front of me? I can't control it.
That is
well, the thing is that they have this technology to do these type of things. And when I mean them, I mean the government. Don't forget,
right.
The government, especially the military, they're at least 50 years ahead when it comes to technology than they're letting us know. So it is possible that... No, go ahead, sorry.
I did watch military men walk off of that spaceship before we all went on. This is actually a book. It's like a science fiction book that I could write, okay, honestly. And I had always kept it to myself for years, except for all my family knows about it, my friends, of course, because you got to talk to somebody about it so you don't go nuts. Okay? Well, they showed us Jesus Christ on the spaceship. And I never understood why, really, until the past couple of years. And On the spaceship, they had big screens. Okay, there was 2 rooms that I went in on the spaceship. Okay, and they showed us Jesus Christ. And back then, you didn't see a TV like this screen, but it's like the big flat panel screens. And they did show us Jesus Christ, but they didn't tell us anything about it, of why.
Well, see, what I think would happen, and don't take my word for it. This is just based on the research that I've done. I think what happened is like you've experienced a form of Project Bluebeam, and this is what they're doing to a lot of people. They're giving little samples out. You know, they're testing certain people to see how they would react, so they can implement it on a mass scale. Because you've mentioned, you know, seeing Jesus on a spaceship with military personnel, and you know, these spaceships are not, in my opinion, of an extraterrestrial origin, but are our own technology. So I think you have experienced something of a Project Bluebeam type test.
Well, something that's important and I think I should mention, and I've never found anybody that could kind of give me any direction or answers. My mother, when she went to that study, when they were looking for psychic women, and it wasn't just her, there was other women, and I know this because I heard my parents talking about it several times. They all put on a hospital gown, the pregnant women, and they took a white machine and just ran it up and down their stomach. They said there was no sound, no noise. They didn't feel anything at all, and it was over. They gave them their check, and they left. And then I was born. And then we're having poltergeist activity to the extreme. My parents don't know what's going on. We keep moving. We think we're in haunted houses. And then they learned about poltergeist, and that's when we went back. They contacted the parapsychology department at the University of Cincinnati. And I was trained for a while, by the way, as a child. It was me and a little boy. Out of the 4 children, it was only me and the little boy that ended up going and being trained once a week by a woman named Shelley for a while with our psychic abilities. And then that ended. So, have you ever heard anything with the white machine with pregnant women?
Well, yeah, I've heard very, very similar stories that you're stating here on air from other people.
Really? Because I would love to meet them and talk to them so I don't feel alone.
No. Well, go on Facebook, check out Awaken United. There are many groups in there that I own, and there are a lot of people in there that you'll come across that have very similar stories that you have. And the thing is that the military, they like to, you know, come out with these experiments on people, and the people don't know what's going on. You know, the military will tell them it's for one reason or for another. But what they're doing is they're messing around with your genetics. They're messing around with your mind. So I'll give you an example. The poltergeist activity that you're experiencing, I don't really think it's a poltergeist activity. I actually think they messed around with your frequency a little bit, and it's something they may have implanted you. Yeah, and it's coming from you. You know, not
that happens.
Like, you're not to blame for this. You have to understand it. You're not the one to blame for this. It's not your fault. Okay?
I have my lights pop on by themselves, my ceiling fans. My stereo will pop on. My TV. I woke up in the middle of the night. My TV was on. I thought I turned it off. I went to use the bathroom. I was really tired, and I thought, I got to find the remote and turn it off. It popped off by itself just because I wanted it to.
Now, I'll tell you, I've actually had that kind of thing happen also. I've had my computer will just shut off. I've had Skype go on and off on me. I've had my TV come on. So those types of things I have experienced, but not to the extent you have. I haven't. I've been close to a spaceship, but not on one. But go ahead, Chris.
Well, the thing is, once you're part of a project that is funded by the NSA or any other government body, and particularly the military, they will follow you to your death. They will continue.
Oh, I know. They do. They take my records. They get me out of trouble. If I ever get in trouble,
well, yeah, because
they get me right out.
Their secrets.
Yeah.
But you have to also keep in mind that you're not the one to blame. That it's not your fault. Because a lot of people I've come across, you know, they blame themselves for this, and they become very depressed. But don't, because this is not your fault. They did this to you, and the best way to get them back is to expose them and to let your story out so that other people who are going through what you're going through can share with other people.
Well, I'm actually starting a book about this, but I'm going to tell you what. And I did go to the University of Cincinnati, by the way, in the 90s to look up Dr. Burke because I remembered him. He did exist, and it freaked me out to the extreme because he taught military science. when we went to the Book of Archives and looked him up.
Amazing. Well, I'll tell you what, when you do get, when you're ready to come on air and tell the full story, please email me. I would love to have you on whenever you're ready, and I'm sure Chris would as well.
Yeah.
I would love to do that. I will tell you they threatened me because Dr. Burke hypnotized me with a pencil before I left his office that day. The little boy went into we left the spaceship, the boy went into his office, came out, I went in. I was in there for a long time. I remember my dad knocking on the door. He hypnotized me with a pencil and told me I would not remember anything. And I looked at him and said, "Oh, I'm going to remember when I grow up. I'm going to think I'm crazy, though." And he said, "Why would you think you're crazy? Why wouldn't anybody think they're crazy?" But when I remembered this stuff, there was no internet, so I had nowhere to go. And now it's just all coming to a head. But he threatened me. He told me that I could talk about the aliens, the ETs, the spaceship people, but if I ever brought up the government being involved, we will stop you. That's exactly what he said. We will stop you. So I guess they're going to kill me or get the IRS after me or, put drugs in my house and come raid it. I don't know.
Well, the best way to protect yourself, and trust me, I've been doing this for a long time, so has Michael and a lot of other people out there in the truth movement. The best way to protect yourself is to let your story out. Because if something does happen to you, then you have proof that, it was not of your own hand or it wasn't mysterious illness that they did it to you. And they won't try anything on you if you are open and you are out there and you expose them.
That's right.
Well, they did to Bill Cooper.
Yeah, they did to Bill Cooper. But look what happened since,
I have a question. I'm sorry, I don't know the caller's name. This is Peter Kling. Did I make it back on?
You're back on.
Talk about being attacked. My computer stopped recognizing my microphone for some reason. I don't know why. It's the same microphone I've used for well over a year, but it just decided it wasn't going to recognize it anymore. So I went through gyrations to get back here. But here's my question. I just want to go back to the poltergeist thing. I'm sorry I came in the middle of this because I may have some answers for you. But what makes you think that a poltergeist is involved?
That's just what my parents called it.
That's okay, but what things were happening?
Oh, lights coming on, furniture moving. My mother said I would carry on conversations with people she couldn't see. I could tell my mother was afraid of me when I was little. Yeah,
I'm wondering, I don't know what experimentation that you've gone through, but children are psychics inherently because they always operate in alpha. They don't have the beta operating system. Their brains don't operate at that speed. And that's why all these experiments happen to children. But they may have actually somehow assigned you a poltergeist. Let me explain this. This
Okay.
goes back into Project Bluebeam. When you look at how the numbers that are involved here, we can identify that there's approximately 300 million, what we would call extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial life forms involved. Now, there's this other group, though, which exists, and we don't have a number on this. And that is, and this information is only found in the book of, oh, shucks, it just slipped my Enoch. And that is when it came to these sons, the Nephilim, the sons of the Watchers wanted to take them with them. Now, they were going to be shipped off to an interdimensional prison, essentially. But they were petitioning Enoch to ask Yahweh if they could take their sons with them. Now, the answer was no, and the reason was on the earth they were begot, and on the earth they will stay. But here's the thing. We're talking about a physical vessel for an interdimensional life form. These were hybrid. Humans.
Oh, my God.
Humans are interdimensional life forms in a physical body. We just don't understand that because we live in a physical world, so we think. But there's 7 other dimensions, at least 7 other dimensions, which we can't operate without. It could be, the math. I'm going by the math.
Okay. Well, my ex-husband thought I was a hybrid, and I didn't even understand that. And then when I remembered the whole spaceship thing, and I remembered the telekinesis that would happen, it started happening, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not human, you know, and I flipped out and all this stuff, you know. But that's been like over 25 years ago when that all happened. I did read your book, Peter, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And it was excellent.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I wish everyone would read it. And if it didn't have chapters 10 and 11 in it, it would be a best time seller.
No, I loved it. I was addicted to it. I couldn't read it as fast as I wanted to, but very good book. It did help me, but I'm going to be honest with you, it did kind of cause me a little confusion too, because you have to understand that I have all these memories, and I mean, this is a lot of stuff that I could go into, but we don't have the time, okay? And I'm trying to figure out what the hell is exactly going on, which is why I called in.
Well,
so, but Blue Beam, because I know I was involved in the project, I just didn't know what it was called.
Yeah, you see, and part of this whole thing, and it ties in with Revelation, the 9th chapter, where it talks about this plague which is unleashed upon the earth. But when you read what it is, you want to talk about a bizarre alien life form. My goodness. But here's the problem. We know that they have the genetic capability of pretty much putting anything together that they want using DNA. Pigs with glow-in-the-dark noses. Goats which give off spider web milk. And this is the stuff that we know about. What stuff have they developed in the DARPA labs? You know,
right.
So we don't know that. And then you get these little psyops movies, like Disney comes out with Mars Needs Moms, and people like Laura Eisenhower would come forth and say, hey, I was tapped for a Mars project, a Mars Ark project, and people talking about that there's already bases on Mars and on the moon. And with the technology that we have, NASA's just the window. It's just, we work here, basically. Let's launch a rocket. All they're doing is putting up space junk.
Well, and another thing, too, Peter, is that with Project Bluebeam, you also have Project MK Ultra, which is a part of it.
Yeah, and it's all wrapped up together for the greatest deception. And here's, we have to watch the timeline that we're on, because this could very well take place toward the end of 2015.
Do you know what else I do? I still do it. When I was 6 years old, okay, this was like 1970, and we found out I had to wear glasses, I asked my dad, why can't I just have the surgery? He's like, there is no surgery. And I knew there was. And I said, it's because it's too expensive. Because I slip into timelines. Now I know what to call it. I will know something. I will think something happened before it did.
Yes,
and I will actually think that it did.
Yeah, that's precognition. When I first experienced it, I was 9 years old, and it set up a paradox in my life, and so I wound up growing up with a Bible in one hand and a test tube in the other, literally. But here's the thing. Some people are just keyed in. And, I hate to say this, but it's the only thing that makes sense out of my life. I've got to go back to before I was actually conceived to find a common thread. And that takes me off planet. And so here with the situation that you have faced, you've been off planet. At least in your mind, you've been off planet, regardless of whether it actually happened or not. In your mind, you're convinced it happened, and no one can argue with that. No one can argue with your memories.
The little boy that was to the right of me with his parents, his mother fainted when that spaceship landed. And people, when I first came out with this, just talking to friends and family, they said, I must have just thought it was that way, like I made it up. And I'm like, and it was a spiritual experience. So if it's a spiritual experience, why is this woman fainting?
Yeah,
good
question.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, it's like, well, what's wrong with this picture?
And I would like to add this. When we left the spaceship, she told me, the main lady, and she called herself, my dad said, when they showed us Christ, my dad said, "Oh my God, are you God?" And she said, "No." And he said, "Is God here?" And she said, "Yes." He said, "Can we meet him?" She said, "No." But she told my father that she was a goddess. Okay? I just wanted you to know that. And then before we left, she looked at me and she said, "Did you know that before you were born, if you were born, we would come?" And I shook my head yes.
Well, if I can ask you a question, was it just your mother in your family that was involved with these experiments, or does it go further down in the generations?
Oh my God, I just found out the other day my uncle, he doesn't want anybody to know, he's only 6 months older than me, because my parents were very young when they had me and they were both the firstborn. He's having, he's going on spaceships and working on the spaceships with ETs. He confided in his sister and she told me, because I get on Facebook and I talk about stuff a little bit. Not too much because I want to watch it. Yeah. But yeah, my uncle is, I'm finding out other people are. The house in Indiana that we used to go to that my great uncle owned, and it's been in the family for years. There is a big meteorite in the front yard too, just to mention that, because that was always cool. They tried to take it. He argued with them. They did finally end up taking it away. But it's those people that I'm talking about in Indiana that have had some experiences too, that lived in that house.
And you see, here's where the poltergeist, boy, we ought to have you on a show with Brother Jim Beam. Jim Beam. Yeah, Brother Bill Beam.
Jim Beam, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, Jim would work out good too. But no, I'm being serious here because I bring up Bill Beam. He's done a lot of exorcisms, and he uses it. When I asked him how he did it when I first met him, and it was on Michael's show, several years ago, I said, "How are you doing this?" And he said, "Well, I rely on Father Yahweh." And it was like, yep, that's about the only way you can do it. So he knows what he's doing. And here's the situation in which we're in. And people don't understand this. We are caught in the middle of an interdimensional war. And it's a war for our very souls. Yeah, you may know that. I may know that. A lot of people who have been involved in the programs know this. But what the masses don't have a clue. They're like, oh, well, something's wrong. My dollar's not going as far. Who's Dancing with the Stars tonight? It's like, okay.
Oh, that would be Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
and I just want to say we have had other callers as well. So folks, call back in. We'll get your calls. Sometimes we go a minute. Depends. Very interesting story.
Can I ask again, what was that page on Facebook called where I can go and check out where other people are talking about similar stories?
Just Google on Facebook on the search Awaken United. There's about 20 groups and pages there. You can join them all. Yeah, and you'll see a lot, especially the UFO group that I have. There's a lot of people in there, and international truth seekers as well. Just join them all, and you'll see a lot of people will have similar experiences as yourself.
So may I ask a question? Sure. Do you think that I'm a hybrid?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Thank you.
Here's the situation. We all contain a certain amount of, this goes back to what's recorded in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, the 15th verse, where Yahweh says, I will put enmity between, speaking to the serpent, he says, I will put enmity between your seed and the woman's seed. So now you've got 2 genetic lines. Now we can track the serpent's seed pretty easily because the ancient Sumerians just wrote it down in clay that the Anunnaki showed up and invented religion and government. And so that's been carried down through every world power with essentially the same replay in gods. But is this seed, when we look at the royals today, they're all interbred. They've been trying to keep this reptilian or this serpent seed pure. But over the years, all of us contain a certain amount of it. Now, here's where, with my situation, when I said I have to go back before I was even born, when I look at my mother's family and my father's family, something interesting happened on my father's side. You needed to put both those parts together. My mother had the spiritual connection, but my father had the genetic roots, which go back to the first people who started, the people who were burned at the stake for reading the Bible.
All right, sum it up.
Some of them were my ancestors, according to the research my cousin did. And so, here, so now what brought them two together to create me, and then what created the anomalies in my life to get me to the point where I understand this stuff? You see?
My uncle searched our family tree years ago, before the Da Vinci Code even came out, and he was all proud because my family was knights for the King of Scotland. But then they took off to Ireland, and the family knew that they went to Ireland, but didn't know why, and they lost a lot of the roots, and could only go back so far. But they did find that they were the knights for the King of Scotland.
Yeah, and so there's your family connection. And so what they're doing is, because you may not have the actual royal stamp of approval to be next in line for the throne, but you are still part of that family. And interestingly enough, I'm speaking to one of your relatives who was told to get in contact with me. She's also connected to the royal throne of Scotland.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, how about that for synchronicity? And she does have the evidence. She went and did the research for her lineage. And so she can go right back, and she names off the dead royals like, she's going right down an obituary column. But she knows them. She makes the connections to who they are. She's done her homework. And, it's like, what do I do now? And so that's why it was actually, interestingly enough, her deceased ancestors which told her to contact me. Interesting.
Okay, and with that, we really have to move along here. I hate to. I ask, please email me, and we'll get you back on the show, because I'd really love to get into your story extensively.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Michael. Stu, and I don't know the other guy's name.
Peter
and Chris.
No, I said Stu. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Peter, Michael, and the other man. I don't know his name, but
Chris.
thank you guys so much.
Oh,
what is it?
Chris.
Okay, thank you. Good night, and I will go ahead and listen to the show some more.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the call. I really do. Folks, we're not like your AM/FM shows. We don't rush people off, but when we did have a lot of calls coming in. We've got one now, and I'm going against my better judgment. Unknown phone number. Where are you calling from? And first name, please.
Is this me?
It is you.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I didn't unplug that from before, but
Okay.
She was brilliant. You guys are great. And I just wanted to add, you guys were going towards the RH negative, I think, right? With the Scotland and whatnot.
I honestly don't. I couldn't even tell you my own blood type, let alone anybody else's blood types. That's just one of those things I avoid because of scriptural warranty, so to speak. All blood belongs to the Creator, so it makes no difference to me.
I was listening to this radio show, and this woman was fascinating, and she pretty much said, I felt okay until she said that, those with RH negative, there's no way they're getting into the kingdom. So I guess now I'm just in a different spot, and when that young lady was on, it just fascinated me. So I won't keep anybody else because I really have nothing intelligent to add. But thank you so much.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the call. And if there's anything else, feel free. I mean, you're on. So
thank you. Good night and God bless.
All right. Good night to you, and God bless also. But yeah, guys, some nights we get the calls, some nights we don't. Tonight's one of those nights where the calls have been rolling in. We've gotten to a few of them, but hey, if you called in and you didn't get through, it's open for you now. So call in and we'll get you on. The number is 803-317-2264. You can also call in using Skype, and the Skype ID is Late Night in the Midlands. And if you are listening from the Dark Matter Radio Network, you're going to be hearing the recorded version, so please do not call in if you're hearing the show there. But, all right, interesting enough. And, Peter, we've got you back, and everything's
amazing, huh?
Good. Yeah, well, it's not Wednesday.
Did they blue beam you off the air, Peter?
I have no clue. All of a sudden, my microphone worked, and then it didn't work. And then it worked, and then it didn't work. And then it didn't work. And so I restarted, tried to rejoin the group, still didn't work. But I did notice when I changed from one port to the other port, all of a sudden the computer said, "Oh, we recognize a new piece of hardware." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, it's not a new piece of hardware. It's been here for a year." It said, "Please restart." So
we have to make sure it's you and not a holographic image of Peter Clinton.
No, well, I don't know whether I'm coming or going, so I might be a holographic image. But, I don't know exactly what we missed. I'm sure we made it through step 3, and I know we're coming up to a commercial in step 4 of Project Bluebeam. Sounds like it might be a good place to start off at when we get back. But, I want to comment on something about HAARP, which we talked about earlier. Okay. And you brought this up about, when each nation or each language group will see whatever they're going to put in front of us, and they'll hear whatever's being said in their own voice. They're not actually going to hear it with their ears.
It'll be in the skull, voice to skull.
Yeah, exactly. And so now these people are hearing the voice of God right within their own head, in their own language, and they're seeing whatever picture is being put up before them, and they're like, "What?" But
a lot of them, Peter, are going to think that they're going crazy, and they're going to be running to a psychiatrist. That's a scary thought.
It's interesting when you look at the prophecies in Revelation 17 and 18, and I keep on referring to this because this is what's coming up. This is where essentially the Vatican sits as a queen, and she has no mourning, and she is no widow. She's all powerful, and she's controlling this scarlet-colored, 7-headed, 10-horned wild beast, and it turns on her. Now, when you read the whole 2 chapters, it's broken. It's not in chronological order on how it happens. It talks about the different situations. But when it happens, she rules for a day. But the beast, the wild beast, which we would consider a one world government, a new world order, total totalitarian rule, the emergence of Project Bluebeam, this lasts for a prophetic hour. Now, how long that is, I don't know, but an hour isn't very long for a government to exist. Now, that is the 8th king, which turns on religion and destroys it, religion as we know it. So now if we have 2 sides of this coin, so to speak, or 2 riders on the same horse. You've got the Jesuits and you've got the Zionists, both trying to control the world banking system. And the Jesuits, who are controlling the Vatican, seem to have launched the first strike. And with the Pope coming out and condemning money or the debt system, you can be sure he's cooking up something. So we need to be aware of this. This is the rise of the Vatican. Prophetically, it's also the eclipsing of the blood moons, starting on or the night of that Passover ends. We get the first of 4 total lunar eclipses, all on high Hebrew holidays over the next 18 months. We also get 4 solar eclipses. 2 of them are on the spring equinox. The 2 full solar eclipses are on the spring equinox, which is the start of the month of Nisan, the first month of the Jewish calendar. So these are all very significant astrological alignments because they're not going to happen again for the next 1,000 years, which is also significant. So as we're going through this time period, and I'm talking between this year, 2014, and next year, 2015, pay attention. Now, they say history repeats itself. In 1814 to 1815, the Rothschild banking empire turned around and captured essentially the Bank of England, the Bank of France, the Bank of Germany. They controlled a large part of the Bank of Italy. And the only thing that was holding them up from springing a new world empire or one world government during the 1914 to 1915 time period was Tsar Alexander I. And because he wouldn't join in and go along with
And I mean, we're getting so into this tonight that we're talking during the break, which we usually don't. We usually use that break to do whatever we got to do quick. But we're back, and we'll take your calls, 803-317-2264. And if that was too fast for you, you know, it's not going to break your finger to click on over to LateNightInTheMidlands.com, and the call-in number is at the top right corner of the homepage, and the chat and listen page is where we'd like to see you tonight, because you could join the chat room, talk with other like-minded awake people, and some who might just be coming awake, and which is good. That's why we're here. And Peter, go right ahead. And I believe we might have Justin Cook with us.
Justin is with us.
Okay. Hey, Justin, how are you?
Justin, how are you?
Not bad, guys. How you doing? Sorry I wasn't here on time. I was supposed to have two people give me a wake-up call, and neither of them did after dinner. I laid down. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I'll run through this quick. So essentially, 1814, 1815, Napoleon gets defeated at Waterloo, and the Rothschilds at the Congress of Vienna try to launch their first attempt at a one-world government. 1914, World War I breaks out. Now, if everybody remembers, 1913, we got the Federal Reserve, so they were gearing up to finance the First World War. And the United States gets sucked into that. Now, interestingly enough, at the end of the war, they attempt again a one-world government with the League of Nations. Woodrow Wilson, the blackmailed president of America who sold us down the road, even wrote the charter for the League of Nations, but he couldn't get the U.S. Congress to ratify joining the League. Well, with the greatest resource on the face of the earth and not part of the League of Nations, that puts everybody in a dilemma. But what happens over in Russia is that during the First World War, 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution, backed by the Rothschild Oppenheimer banking cabal, launched an attack against the Tsar of Russia, and Tsar Nicholas and his whole family are murdered. And Russia is plunged into an ever-deepening situation of communism, which winds up in 1/3 of the population being put to death. The same thing happens in China, but they don't keep, they don't, it's hard to get the actual numbers during the communist revolution in China. Some estimates are as high as a billion people may have died during that revolution, between the starvation and the overthrow of the government. But regardless, from 1914 or 1919, when the League of Nations comes to be, we still don't have the United States involved. And so we get a second world war, but first we get FDR, who takes all the gold to finance the war, builds all these dams, TVA Authority, they build the dams out in the West. The Hoover Dam is built so they can generate plenty of electricity to gear up for the war machine. And they did it with Americans' gold that they stole and gave us Federal Reserve notes for. And at the end of the war, what happens? The United States is right in front of the United Nations, pushing it all the way. And the first thing that the United Nations does is declare Israel a state. Yeah, that's the story. It was all to get Israel to become a state. so now we see a whole paradigm shift that goes from there. And here we are 100 years later after the second attempt of a new world order. And now the United States is totally sold out and is part of the cabal, this banking cabal that's sucked us dry. And what do you think is going to happen? 1814, 1815, 1914, 1919, 2014 to 2017. Should be interesting years. So Project Bluebeam is going to come in real handy.
Yeah, I guess it will. So Justin's joined us. Justin Cook is co-host with Chris Freedom Flowers on Sunday. And Chris, if you wouldn't mind, put out a little plug there for your show because I'll goof it up.
You will. That's true. Yeah, right here on LNM Radio, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. PST. Awaken United, Mysteries and Beyond. We cover everything, guys. Paranormal, New World Order, secret projects. So join me, Justin. It's a great show. Coming up this Sunday, we're going to be talking again with Pam Suggs and Doxy regarding Earthship's sustainable survival tips, as well as Yellowstone National Park and other issues. So join us. It's going to be a great show.
All right, great. And so step 4, if you want to get into that, right? That's what we're doing?
That's where we are. So step 4 concerns the universal supernatural manifestation of electronic means. So pay attention to that word, listeners, electronic means. It contains 3 different orientations. So one is to make mankind believe that an alien invasion is about to strike down on each major city of the earth in order to push each major nation to use its nuclear weapons to strike back. This way, it would put each of these nations in a state of full disarmament in front of the United Nations after the false attack. Okay, and if you look at your television channels, you'll notice that there are tons of UFO-related television shows. Also, while there is no apparent invasion as of now, we are amidst a major global event that we're being told threatens the entire world population, but could be potentially a situation that could bring the next steps into fruition. And here are some examples of things that have taken place over the past couple of years. Shipments of uranium mysteriously gone missing. In particular, here in Canada, there was a shipment that was sent from Montreal, Quebec to Toronto, Ontario, while en route mysteriously disappeared, has still not been found. The Fukushima nuclear fallout, Pickering, there was a power plant leak there last year. So you're seeing all of these things coming into play. And it's for a reason, guys. Don't think that it has to be actual bombs being dropped on people, because it's not.
Oh,
it could
Chris,
be,
sorry to interrupt, but we're actually going through that here now in Columbia, South Carolina. There's leakage, and it's heading for the Savannah River, and it's getting in the drinking water. And of course, what happens? Yeah, the water will evaporate, and then it'll come back down and rain. And guess what? Yeah, West Virginia. You're right. It's another deal. What's going on there?
West Virginia. I believe it was some type of chemicals spill, and it's in their drinking water now. It's in their. It's a real mess because from what I understand. The chemical that they use there, I don't have the exact name on it, or whatever, but it's actually it's in a couple 100,000 homes and businesses, and what happens with this is they're going to need all these lines flushed and everything, and if they get a real bad winter, it could turn into something even worse. So I don't know. I've heard it's something I heard it's really bad down there, and who knows? It may just be a. I think Harry Link thinks it's a psyop. I'm not sure personally which way I'm leaning on it, but either way, whether it's a psyop or whether was an actual accidental spill, it's problems.
Yeah, I mean, the leakage we've got here is radioactive, so not good at all. And yeah, so and you got to wonder, do they tell us these things because they know something? It's like, well, we want to keep them out of our fresh water. I doubt it. I think that this stuff's really happening, and I'm a little concerned because I'm close to home here with this radioactive leak, and this South Carolina is loaded with these damn power plants, and I'm not liking it too much. And I've been telling people this is going to happen. It's going to happen, worldwide. They think, oh, it's over in Japan, no big deal. Oh, it's over in this state or that state. Yeah, we've got a lot of this going on. This is just what we're hearing about.
And what's interesting is that I read that the nuclear power plants in America are all built on fault lines.
Oh yeah, they're almost most of them are almost identical matches to the Fukushima design, which means that they've got those pools on top. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous to have them at all. That's why I say it's off world, man. The people who are calling the shots, I don't know if they're people at all, because it's just sick, the things that they're doing.
Well, we've covered all 4 steps of Project Bluebeam, and based on what we've discussed here, it appears that all 4 steps have been implemented. And that's very scary, particularly when Peter was talking about 2015 and when he and Alfred were discussing, the lunar eclipses and a lot of the prophecies on the show that you guys did the other day with Alfred Labermont Weber. And if you look at the way things are going with Project Bluebeam, it seems to be on that timeline to be in full fruition by 2015.
Yeah, there's too many circumstantial events. If we were attorneys, we'd be talking about the circumstantial evidence that seems to be mounting over the next 2 years. And the eclipses are only one part of it. You've got the fact that the Prince William is going to be 33 years old on the summer solstice of 2015 at the 21st of June at 2100 hours 3 minutes. Interesting, all the synchronization of that. So you look at these situations that we know are going to take place, and here's Prince William is already knighting the current knights of England, the new knights, the people who I guess do wonderful things for England and deserve a knighthood. He is doing that at the Queen's behest. So that's a royal duty that the Queen herself used to do, and now Prince William's doing it. So guess who the next king is going to be? It's starting to look a little obvious for this if he's carrying that out, not Prince Charles.
Exactly.
So, it's funny. The tabloids were saying this almost a year ago. It takes me back to the movie Men in Black when they want to go find out why all the aliens are leaving Earth. And so they pull up to the newsstand and they pull all the rag tabloids off and they start reading the headlines to see what they're covering. That's the real news, huh? Yeah. It's funny because I was picking up, I would go look for news feeds on the royal family for about the past 2 years, just keeping track of good old Prince William. And the tabloid news feeds nailed it every time. So they have good sources.
Yeah.
So we have to see what happens with all these different synchronizations. But the first problem that we're going to face is the end of the dollar. The Vatican has already said it's an instrument of enslavement. And they weren't allowed to put "In God We Trust" anymore because they've made money their God and they're using it in this debt system to enslave the populace. And this is basically what the Pope has said himself. And between that and his 41-page treatise on changing the world system, it's coming. I don't know how, but just because it's not out on the headline news, people are like fat, dumb, and happy. But if I was trading on Wall Street, go look at what the billionaires are doing. They're all dumping their stocks. We were talking about this last week, if I recall correctly. Stu was bringing out that all of the billionaires were dumping their stocks, and they were focused on the product stocks for the masses. Procter and Gamble. I mean, that's been one of the main suppliers of supermarket chains from coast to coast here in the United States. They're dumping Kraft Foods. Why would you dump Kraft Foods? We're not going to have people eating food anymore. You know, what does that tell you? Well, yeah, but still, at that point, it isn't really open for debate. I think once you read the ingredient label, you say, yeah, there's probably nothing here I really want. Although, hey, Kraft macaroni and cheese has passed the lips of a lot of children in the United States. Regardless, why would you sell off those stocks? Nobody's going to be around to eat?
Probably not.
So you scratch your head and wonder, and look what they're doing, and then ask yourself, what do they know that we don't know? What do these billionaires know that we don't know?
My concern, Peter, like my big concern right now was what's happening over there on the West Coast, especially the Pacific Ocean and all the fallout from Fukushima. That is I think the most important topic of today.
Yeah, and add that with all the facilities that are leaking here in the United States, and it creates even a bigger problem. But go ahead, Peter. Sorry.
Not a problem. And I'm not going to downplay this. This is an extinction level event. It just happened to take place on an Elenin, ELE, extinction level event, Elenin comet, or Comet Elenin. It was right on that alignment, and it happened, and there's evidence that it was man-made, and that this little speck of thing that we didn't even see had nothing to do with it. So we got our extinction level event. And this is just, this is like them constantly setting off nuclear bombs one every hour. It's ping.
Yeah, and I'll say it.
Just keep on setting them off. Doesn't matter.
And I'll say it again. The plan is in motion. That's why they're getting these homeless people. And they're here in South Carolina, Peter, you didn't hear the beginning, I don't think, but it's illegal to be homeless. And they're giving them an option. Either you get arrested and you go to jail, or they'll even give them a one-way ticket, I think, out of the state, or New York's doing that. But here in South Carolina, your choice is jail or a FEMA camp. They say it's kind of a residential thing, but barbed wire is facing in, and they're not going to be allowed to leave. So now, and then you take the economy into consideration, and they're purposely collapsing it, because then many more of us will become homeless. And we'll say, oh, yeah, well, we've been conditioned. We're going to go with the other homeless people, and they're going to take care of us in those FEMA camps that we can't leave.
Now, what's going to happen to the Bitcoin situation when the electronic grid fails and there's an EM pulse?
Oh, that's a good question. Again, there you go. I don't like this electronic currency thing. You got cash in your pocket, and they're after you. You could at least stop at the store and grab something to eat. They're after you, and you don't have cash in your pocket, you got Bitcoin, they could just shut you off. That's it. You don't even come running begging to the New World Order. And so I don't like it. They've already got enough control. Don't give them control of that, too.
Well, Michael, I want to point one thing out here, though. We look at this, and we're saying, yep, look what they're doing. They're going to kill us all. They're going to murder us. Look at the Georgia Guides telling us.
Well, they're not going to kill us all.
We could sit here all night long. And the topic, if you've done your homework, you have to certainly say, something to think about. During the height of the Cold War, the United States had over 70,000 nuclear warheads. Over 70,000. You want to talk about an extinction level event? That's yeah.
All you need is a major earthquake along the New Madrid fault line, and goodbye.
Well, here's the situation. When we look at all of these dangers that are out there, now the good thing is, if you don't live near the power plant, nuclear fallout isn't going to be a death sentence yet. it's going to cause some problems for people, and it's going to, if you're predisposed to cancer rates are going to go through the roof.
Well,
but here's the thing, the power grid going down, all of these nuclear plants failing, this may all happen, but it'll happen quickly. And I'm sure it's going to be tied into the Nibiru or Planet X event. Exactly, is it a brown dwarf star that's going to pass between us and the sun? I don't know for sure.
See, and I'm not convinced of that whole thing yet. I mean, yeah, I believe that there's something to it, but I'm not sure if that's what they're preparing for. I'm just saying, speaking for me, I'm still on. I know they're preparing. That I know, but I don't know.
Michael, the only thing I know for sure is that we're starting another cycle of the equinoxes. We're starting another 13,000-year journey before everything aligns again the way that it just has. And this doesn't happen overnight. The changes started coming in 1998. Earthquakes increased literally in 1 year by 500%. And now they're up over 700%. So what's been happening in the past 20 years? Well, 15 years anyway. We've had this alignment of the equinoxes, and now we're going to the next cycle. What is happening when we get to the reverse polarity of the Milky Way? I don't know. I've never been here before, but the prophecies don't bode well.
Well, they do.
At least for the short period. And you see the Nibiru event, and in one prophecy after another, and all of them relating to the sun being darkened, this is the last sign before the return of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords and armies of the multiverse. Now, if we have a mock alien invasion or a real alien invasion with genetically engineered life forms that look awful alien to us, it would be nice to know that the King of Kings and Lord of Lords was going to show up and take care of this nonsense.
No, not if he's an alien.
or
Well,
a hologram.
Now you ask, how do you know the difference? How do you know the difference? Here's the difference, and this was a little. Alfred Weber and I did a video about a little over a month ago, and he posted part 2 as the return of Christ. Yeah, that's kind of a misnomer. If you look at this entity, which we know best as Jesus or Yeshua, it seems that life form, that soul, has played out in different parts of history before. In John, the 1st chapter, it's referred to as the Word. In the Hebrew scriptures, it is referred to as Michael, the prince of the Hebrews, the essentially the cosmic prince or the interdimensional prince. We know that there are other princes involved too, by the record in Daniel, when the extraterrestrial Gabriel comes and says, "Hey, I had to wrestle with the Prince of Persia, and look, the Prince of Greece is coming." World powers controlled by princes. Interestingly enough, when I had alien contact back when I was 18 years old, whatever appeared in my bedroom said, "Look, the prince arrives." And so I was being brought in at a very high level. And what can I say? They didn't like me after a few visits.
Well,
I laugh about it, but the fact of the matter is they told me they were going to kill me. And 14 times I should have been dead. Once I was and got sent back. So, yeah, I believe in extraterrestrials, and I don't trust them. At least none that are contacting us. Now, here's the thing. The discussion that I had with Alfred was based on the Christ returning. You see, the Christ isn't going to return. The Christ died. The Christ is the Messiah. That life form was no longer the Christ. It has taken the next step, which is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And now everybody's saying, "Oh, sacrilege is going to burn in hell for saying that." No, because that's exactly what it says in Revelation. And in Revelation, the 19th chapter, it says that nobody knows his name except for him. but he's got the title of King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and he controls the armies of the multiverse. And he's coming here to settle the affairs with the nations of the earth. It says that he has a long sword that he's going to strike them with, and he is going to shepherd them with an iron bar. You ever shepherd something? You ever hit something with an iron bar? You know, sheep herders don't use iron bars on their sheep. They use wooden crooks to pull them along.
Well, God shouldn't need an iron bar or any of that. He should just be able to come down and say, well, boom, and make it happen.
Well, you know, this is in prophetic terms. Now, we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. Are we going to see a counterattack on Earth? Well, yeah, of some sort. Exactly how it's going to take place, I don't know.
Well, and it'll be kind of interesting if we do shoot some type of weaponry at these holographic aliens that they penetrate right through them. That should be a clear crystal sign that, hey, that's not a UFO, that's a hologram.
Yeah, now here's the other side of that coin. If we do get a genetically engineered alien army, as our previous caller indicated, she's been assigned a poltergeist, it seems like. Well, people have been talking about the return of the Nephilim. These poltergeists are the souls of the Nephilim, which were bound to this earth and never allowed to leave. There's a long history of them. The best one that I like in the scriptures is when Yeshua or Jesus encounters Legion. And he says, what's your name? He says, Legion, for we are many. And it seems that over 1,000 or close to 1,000 of these life forms were living within one man. Oh, how is that possible? They don't have electrons, evidently, and so they all hopped in together. You know, I tell a couple of bad jokes on but this is a little bit more serious. It's not a joke, because these things can possess the same physical body in which your soul is attached to. If you allow them in, guess what? They're going to reside right with you. Hence, you have these people who the church has a regular ritual to expel the demonic forces, and it's called an exorcism. There's a long history of it, and it's all recorded in the scriptures as well. And that's what these poltergeists are capable of, but we have to allow it. Now, the same happens on the interdimensional side with the, quote, princes. And I'm sure that they go through a ritual. And so now that they're sharing, the world leaders are sharing their body, their physical body, with an interdimensional life form, they look like shapeshifters when they get angry.
Well, Hillary looks like a shapeshifter when she gets angry, too.
Yeah, so do her other 3 clones.
She turns into that doll. She's Chucky.
Yeah, you know, that somebody posted, you know, she's thinking about running, or they're priming her to run for president in 2016. Like, like that election's ever going to take place. And another distraction there.
It might, because now they could get all the women on board and brainwash them and fool them into, hey, first woman, you got to support her. And you see how quickly people forget about the evil that these people do. And the one thing I do know is that when it comes to these concentration camps, these FEMA camps that they have, you know, what they'll do, they want to make, you know, destroy the economy, because now you start getting families into these places. And what they do is, you know, they'll say, well, Peter, you're awake and I can't re-educate you, so we're going to put you in that plastic box over there with the other bodies. If your kids are young enough and they can re-educate them, well, they might keep those people around. So it's not like they're going to kill everybody. The ones that they can re-educate.
Go watch the movie The Killing Fields.
Oh, I don't.
It was about the Pol Pot regime in Cambodia.
All I got to do is
true story.
All I got to do is turn the news on, Peter, and I mean, there it is. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, here again, they executed 1/3 of the population. Literally executed 1/3 of the population, and they had swamps that were just buried with bodies, or filled with bodies. Justin? And those were the killing fields. They would take you out to the swamp and shoot you and drop you in to let the swamp consume you. Terrible what men will do to other men when they have ultimate power. And that's why this system of evil cannot go on.
Well, they're
going to exercise their might and their authority, but guess what? it ain't gonna work.
A lot of them got those riches because they made agreements with the evil, the devil. You call it whatever you want, but they made agreements with the dark side. That's how they get where. I mean, you don't become president because you're an honest, cool guy. You get shot for that.
Kennedy proved that.
Yeah, exactly. So all these guys that are running now, like even Jesse, he wants to run. And it's like, well, if we've all agreed throughout the years that the president's selected and not elected, and what makes them think they're going to get in unless they already know that they're going to be selected? So that's, I don't know. For me, yeah, go ahead.
My personal opinion is that they're going to put Rand Paul in. I think that's the whole reason that they primed his old man. That they, here's the thing: is in my opinion, they are. They see that everybody is getting mad, rightfully so, and so he's going to be the next pressure valve to take a little bit of it off, and it's actually going to be because look at it like this: everybody's sick of the so-called left or whatever. So you're going to put a guy in there that's, from the so-called right. Well, here's the thing about someone like him is he's going to probably introduce all types of austerity measures. And what will happen then is we're going to see, people, you think it's bad now with the economy. Wait until they hit us with austerity. It's going to look like Greece or one of those countries.
We may see that a long time before Rand Paul comes in. Here's the thing. If you want to know who's going to be the next president, go see if they're related, if they're one of the cousins. Because
John Kerry has announced that he's running for president in 2016, and he's the first cousin of George W. Bush.
Yeah, here we go. They keep it all in the family. There's only one president that has not been in the family, and that was Martin Van Buren.
Well, I say when we take over, let's eliminate that
Ron
bloodline.
Paul is not one of the family.
There's really no way of knowing that because I actually tried doing some genealogy searches on him, and everything's pretty much been scrubbed. I know he goes back to Germany just like the rest of them, a good amount of them do. And I don't know. I've been one to think that he's been controlled opposition for a long time now, and his son's been proving that they're controlled opposition. So I mean, when people first learned about Obama, nobody thought he was bloodline at the time or whatever. But it's just a figurehead position, and I'm sure if they'll wait until after they put him in or whatever to say that he is. But here's the thing, because everybody is dissent, and this is the way if they can make it seem like like we're putting we're putting the guy in that's going to the anti-Obama but in all realities there's really no difference. It's
same agenda.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, and Obama has ties. He goes right back to King Tut.
It almost looks like they cloned him out of King Tut, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder. Yeah, we can't put any of this past the possibilities. But here's the thing, right? We can suppose all of what is going to happen, but the things that are closest, the first events, unless there's something that catches us totally off guard. The first thing that we have to pay attention to is the economy. And if they crash the dollar, we need to be prepared just in case. Look what happened in 1929.
Let me tell you a little interesting fact and story, Peter, and Justin and Michael. Justin, I'm sure you know about this. I used to work in the banking industry right up until 2005. It was for Royal Bank of Canada. And while I was there, and I was working at the time in data entry, and people who worked in the mailroom or data entry, every year we would serve as hosts for parties that they would throw at the end of the year, like catering basically, waiters. So one day we're there, there's a big meeting, and we're there, we're handing out stuff to them and information packages and all this stuff, and they start talking about this thing called the Amiro, and at this particular meeting, it was in 2000, I believe. It could have been 1999, I'm not sure which year. But they started talking about this thing called the Amiro, and I didn't know anything about it at the time. I didn't pay attention to it, you know? I was mostly into the paranormal field. But as years went by and I started hearing these things about the Amero and all these other things and the North American Union, I was like, wait a minute, did I just walk into something that maybe I shouldn't have? But they were out in the open about it, you know? And this is like 1999, 2000 they were talking about this.
Yeah, interesting. Just about the same time, actually, I'll give credit where credit is due. On his shortwave radio, Alex Jones was talking about the Amero way back around 2000. So I've heard two different thoughts on the subject. One is that there'll be 5 different trading blocks, and so the Amero will serve as the currency for Canada, America, and Mexico, or I say the United States and Mexico. From what I understand, a few $1 trillion has already been paid to China in Amero. So, you know, somebody had faith in that currency once upon a time. Will it come out? Will they actually roll out the Amero? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But one thing is for sure, the Federal Reserve note is pretty much a thing of the past, even though we're still using it. You had better make other plans because it's not going to be around much longer.
See, I think that they're going to push, and I mean the Illuminati New World Order, that they're going to be pushing this Bitcoin thing as being the new currency in the future.
Yeah, a few weeks back, Stu brought out that the Vatican was involved in the electronic currency, and it would make sense that, hey, you want to push a one world order, a one world financial order, and you want to control everyone, make everything electronic currency. And this could be their plan because the prophecy says that the nation shall declare peace and security. Now, if the dollar is crashed and a piece of crap, that's not making us feel very secure. But if they come out and you sign up, you know, you're part of the system, and now you've got your Homeland Security identity card and your little bank card to go along with it. And boy, guess what? We just wiped out all your debt, and we're going to give you 100,000 Bitcoins or Vatican electronic currency, whatever the case might be.
You know what's crazy though about the whole thing is the NSA actually released a memo back in 1996. You can read it online. It's a PDF where they actually talk about something very, very similar to the to Bitcoin, and you know, saying that it would be you know, implemented at some point, and it's you know, like, you know, nothing new is under the sun. They're not going to let a currency like that thrive. I would definitely think that that's a possibility, that could be, you know, we're the next currency. It might not be Bitcoin itself, but it might be another cryptocurrency, you know, online, you know, like they've been conditioning us for.
Well, there's several of them that are popping up. I've gotten a couple of notices within the last week of new electronic currencies. And I'm like wondering, okay, well, let's see. How many can I buy for $10? You know, I'll take that chance. You know, short term, it might be a good investment. Long term,
right?
You know, I'll be honest with you. I'd rather buy U.S. Silver Eagles and hope that I'm making a wise investment because it's going to come down to where we're going to have to rely on each other. You know, we're talking about some pretty doom and gloom stuff here. Things will get better before we hit this totalitarian brick wall, before they unleash the final steps of Project Bluebeam. But it's not that far away. If it's tied into the occultings, if it's tied into these blood moons and these eclipses that we have over the next coming 2 years, we can expect something serious by the end of 2015.
Well, let me ask you this.
We're not talking a long time away.
Who would be in control of this electronic currency? I mean, because you look at it now, it's pretty much electronic currency because what we have is Federal Reserve notes. I mean, you can wipe your butt with them there. I mean, in reality, there's nothing backing them up.
Yeah, it's just numbers in a computer. So what's the difference? Call it whatever you want to call it, and say, hey, everybody's got 100,000. Everybody's got 1,000,000 of these. Everybody's a millionaire. Don't you all feel good? Of course, we who run the computers can just add extra or delete your account, whatever seems to be appropriate at the time.
Wow.
So, it's one way that we can be totally tied in, and hey, it's their system.
Yeah, I don't want it. The only good thing about this paper money is that right now, if I wanted to, I can go to the store with it.
Yeah.
There's not a store around that's not going to accept that, at least for now. So.
Yeah, but Michael, what's the difference whether you pull out?
Well,
I can remember back about 25 years ago, I was standing in line at the supermarket, and somebody pulled out their credit card and bought groceries, and I thought,
interest on
that's
groceries?
crazy.
Yeah.
They're putting groceries on their credit card. Are you insane? It's become a standard practice. Everybody uses plastic when you check out. It's the odd person who uses cash. Think about it. Go to the store. Next time you go do your grocery shopping, watch how many people actually pay with cash versus how many people swipe a card.
Well, they're pushing it with the little deals they give you, and the 10% or whatever percent off, and it's and of course those things too. You're giving them all your information when you sign up for a Big Y card or CVS or whatever card type thing.
Well, yeah, they're giving you like reward points on like air miles and all the stuff you use your Visa.
Yeah, and you know what? I know this firsthand because back in 1997, I worked in, I won't mention the name, but I worked in a pretty large chain grocery store, and I had a management position, and I had to there was a little seminar that they did, and it was about when these bonus cards were coming out, these little, save money if you use this card thing. And we were told then that we weren't allowed to talk about anything that was being discussed in that room. Don't tell nobody about it. But they told us flat out that these things were being used to keep track of people's purchases. And it was a way of now they know what Peter Kling's buying. So either they could use it to throw advertisements at you, or they can use it to know you, to figure out what you're doing at home. Are you buying Are you growing marijuana? Are you doing those kind of things? And they told
I've been ordering
us,
plenty of grow lights and fertilizer. I've ordered 100,000 of them.
and at the time, I didn't think nothing of it. I said, "Who cares?" I walked out of that thing thinking, "Who cares?" Because at the time, I didn't know how bad it really was. Now I think back about that, and it's like, holy cow.
Yeah, Michael, I've just come to the conclusion that everything I do, they know. So what's the difference? They started tapping my phones 2 weeks after Letters to Earth got to my publisher. So it's like, okay, whatever. And that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Now, we have a choice. We can either stay with the system as long as possible. I'm not going to say, hey, go getting your card and getting your chip or whatever they have proposed. You're violating the laws of God. I'm not here to judge anybody. You got a family, 5 kids to feed, and it's a matter of going and getting their electronic coin card so you can buy groceries for your family. Who am I to say don't do it? You're being part of the system. No, you're trying to survive. But this is everybody's individual choice. However, if you have prepared and you are working outside the system and you are doing, and you're going to have to eventually do it more covertly every day, if you can become more self-sufficient, then we become less tied into their system. And so now we have a little bit more control over our own future. But it's all going to come down to the same thing. It's all going to come down, are we going to come together? Are we going to help each other? Are we going to show love for each other? Are we going to have respect for that name of the Most High? Are we going to be part of a future human family who has had enough of this system of evil? And this is where the paradigm change comes in, the paradigm change of Armageddon. It's not a bad thing. Well, it's a bad thing if you're supporting the system. It's a good thing if you're tired of this nonsense. It's a good thing if you don't want to put up with this stupidity any longer. It's a good thing if you're sighing and moaning over the conditions that you're seeing on this planet.
Peter, we live in a time, I mean, this is how bad it is. We live in a time when you can be arrested for harboring a homeless man. There's a guy had a ranch, and he went and rounded up homeless people who were sleeping on the streets, and he gave them a spot on the ranch, and he got arrested for it. I mean, what a self-serving piece of garbage, off-world control system that has come upon us, and it is time to change it.
And so we can be part of the change, and that starts right within yourself. If you can sit there and say, "Oh, there's weeds in my garden. They're going to overtake my crops." Well, get down on your hands and knees and pull the weeds out,
or smoke them.
Whatever the case might be. Like I said, I'm not here to judge anybody, but the truth of the matter is that you have a choice. Hey, you like this system? Go become a Freemason, study Freemasonry, work your way up through the ranks, support your local government, support the corrupt system, and hope that you become a good enough boy that you can turn around and get a seat in the underground bunker.
And it didn't take Craig Fitzgerald long to reach the rank of a 32nd degree Freemason.
I wouldn't want a seat in their bunkers. I'd rather fend for myself out here in the crumbling world before I want to go below ground with those rats.
Okay, so then you have to change your paradigm. Now, this is a fear-based world. Everything is based in fear, which keeps us in the beta state of mind. And guess what? When we pray, or when we meditate, or when we make love, it takes us out of that beta state of mind of either fighting for our very lives or running for our very lives.
You should have had my ex. Sorry, I had to go there.
I can't make I don't want the cops in my house again for loud noises.
Yeah, but or you see, this is where having that connection with Yahweh, or with the Creator, with the soul of the multiverse, with our Father, where I love the expression that there's no atheist in foxholes. We're going to have to essentially dig ourselves a foxhole and jump in it. But here, if we have that connection, which keeps us in the alpha state of mind, if you are praying, if you are meditating, if you are visualizing the future the way that you want it to be, big important step. Visualize the future the way that you want it to be. Picture your ideal place. Put it out there. Hold it in front of you. Make it big, bright, and clear of the type of world that you want to live in. Think of it. And then keep that as your future hope.
That's what I do.
That stays with you on a subconscious level. That stays with you in alpha, theta, and delta. You may not think about it often in beta, but when you can sit back and relax, you think about, wow, this is how I would like to see the future. I want this house, and I want a garden like this, and I want crops out behind the house, and I want a horse, and yes, sweetie, you can have your pony too. And create your future. Oh, what a wonderful dream, Yeah, what a wonderful dream. We do it every night. So take a few minutes out of every day and do it consciously. Stop, pray, meditate, picture your future. And, hey, planning what you're having for dinner tomorrow is picturing your future.
And get an earth ship.
Well, this is part of what brings us all together. It's getting out of that fight or that run. It's getting out of that fear of beta. And I'm talking science here. This is actual, real, legitimate, true science. This is stuff that can be measured. And when we move into alpha, everything changes. Everything changes. Interestingly enough, Earth vibrates in alpha and theta. When you sleep and dream, you vibrate in alpha, theta, and delta. And then you come back. So it would make sense that we don't want to live in a state of fear anymore. So, you know, instead of just plopping yourself down and turning on the TV and watching who's dancing with the stars or who's throwing the furthest pass and who made it to the Super Bowl, spend 10 minutes in the pregame show, turn down the volume, turn off the commercial for a minute, and sit and picture your future. Picture what you want, and then start working toward it. But you have to know what you want in order to attain it. Knowing what you don't want is great. The problem with that is that you always get more of what you don't want because that's what you're focused on. Focus on the things that you want. See humanity coming together. See the human race over. See the human family growing. These are things that we can do, which are active. They're proactive. And they're good for us on the inside too, because it connects us back to the Creator.
Now, every time I go outside at night, Peter, and the chemtrails are cleared and I can actually see the stars for what they are, I'm connecting with the Creator. That's how I do it. You know.
And that's fine, Michael. You know, the point is to take the time out of your day.
Yeah.
Get out of that beta mode. Sit back.
Turn
relax.
on Facebook.
Have an alpha.
Yeah, have an alpha.
I gotta make a new relaxing drink. You know, just something that'll relax you a little bit, take the edge off, based on natural herbal science. And you sit back and you drink it, and it puts you in a meditative state for maybe 15 minutes. Let you totally relax, and then you know you pop up and you're ready to start your day. You feel good.
I wouldn't advise people to be taking walks in national parks because there's been a lot of disappearances that, like...
Yeah, I've heard that, yes.
Range. I mean, sometimes people are just disappearing, but their clothing is being left behind. And there's no logical explanation as to where these people are going.
Maybe you don't need that clothes in that other dimension they're sucking you into. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's the rapture.
Yeah, it just might be. Hey, guys, we're getting down to the last, we've got about 2.5 minutes to go. So whoever wants to start off.
I'm going to sign off, Michael. You know, I do appreciate being here. Folks, I'll be back tomorrow night. What a great show this was. I'm sorry I missed so much of it. I can't tell you exactly what went wrong, but anyway, I made it back, and that's a good thing to at least share some positive thoughts with you all. And so I do want to say this, please, if you haven't read Letters to Earth, go read it. We got a great off-the-cuff endorsement for it tonight. Do it. It'll help you understand your own life. And most of all, love and blessings to all. Have a great night. Talk to you tomorrow.
All right, Peter, thank you very much. And before I go to Chris, let me just say that Peter Kling will be launching his new website this week, I believe. We should have it ready to go. Chris, now with you, I want to say thank you, and to Peter as well. Thank you both for being here. Thank you to Justin Cook, who was here briefly. Thank you, and what a great show this has been, and we're going to have to do this more often. But Chris, the floor is yours for about the next minute.
Yeah, I'd just like to let the people know that every time you look up into the sky and you see what appears to be a UFO, or if you happen to see Jesus on the cross or the Virgin Mary, I want you to sit back and think and say to yourself, is that real or is that a hologram? Because Project Bluebeam is in full effect, it's being used, and it's time to take notice of all of these things that we are seeing.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you very much. And the group again on Facebook.
There are many groups, Michael.
Well, give me the main one, and I'm sure they could get to the others from that one, right?
Yeah, just type in Awaken United in your Facebook search, and you'll come across many groups and pages. And enjoy. There's a lot of information for you to check out, to share, and to help wake people up. And also our page on Facebook, which is LNM Radio Fans and Archives, in which I'm uploading all the shows from the station onto that. We got over 100 uploads already. Check it out because there's some shows on there that I'm sure you've missed that you're going to want to check out.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. And to all of you